But we are a society where who are you selling stuff to? We're selling stuff to each other. If my spending is your income, your spending is my income. If all of us decide at the same time we're going to tighten our belts and spend less, guess what? What happens is we all end up poorer because all of our spending falls at the same time. And by the way, this is the kind of stuff that we're supposed to know. This is stuff that we've known since the 1930s, right? The attempt of everybody to slash spending at the same time because they think they've got too much debt is self-defeating. And so that's why the metaphor is wrong. Now, I guess, you put me on the spot here. What's you want a three-word version of it? But no, I mean, I think the way to say is that you need to grow your way out of a problem like this. And growth means that somebody has to be out there prepared to invest in growth. And look, who's going to do that? American households really are too deep in debt because they were led on by false promises and financial deregulation. Corporations are not in business for our health. They're not going to invest if they don't see a market. So wouldn't it be great if there was some player in the system that was in a position to say to take society's interests into account, to say, look, what do we need to make this economy work instead of just operating, based upon fear and slogans. And gee, I think there's this thing called the government, which could be playing that role. And that's, I think, the way to say it. That we do really, maybe the investment metaphor is the right one. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. And when people say, well, government should be run like a business. Gosh, if there was a business that could borrow at, as of I guess end of the day yesterday, 1.7% long-term interest rates, inflation-protected bonds have a negative interest rate. If you had a business that could borrow literally for free and had lots of things that it knows it should be doing, it would be doing them. It would be borrowing that money and spending. So that's what we need to do. Yeah, and just, sorry, I'm going on too long. This deficit obsession, which we all talked about, is the most amazing thing, because I have to say I was shocked that it happened, and we do need to fight it. Yes, in the long run you have to pay your bills, but as John Maynard Keynes said, in the long run we are all dead, and what we need right now is jobs. Can I just say, by the way, I thought that was great. The way that people get silenced in my line of work is by getting accused of being shrill. That was up everybody Friday. Oh, you've said something, you've not been respectful, you haven't been nasty, but you have to get people's attention. And if some people end up not liking you, that's okay, because you need to get the message out.
Pick up on what Paul said, Heather, about this household mentality with tightening the belts.
Can I just interrupt for 1 second? If you're not feeling the question that's burning in your mind, if it's not being written on a card and being handed to people who are walking around, we won't be able to answer it. So do that as well. Go ahead.
I mean, I think it's okay just from a messaging point of view to concede the point that, we always want to be aware of our spending priorities, but a tree just fell on our house. Right? So if we are going to be forced into the metaphor of the regular family has to tighten its belt, well, I'm an individual who decided to go to business school to invest $100 grand. That took me forever before I figured out that maybe it might have been worth it. But I mean, you know what I'm saying? To spend on something. So investing in America, 4 years ago we had the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. So should we think about our spending? Absolutely. A tree just fell on our house. The first thing you have to do is get the tree off your house. And so the work that, that within the Depression now, get the tree off the house, and then we'll deal with maybe we need to buy the less expensive peanut butter, even though Jif is a superior brand. Do you know what I'm saying?
So Rich, about this question of the superior brand of peanut butter, I'm actually going to try to weave this in, Erica, thank you. So one would say, and we often do in the progressive economic world, talk about this period of sort of shared prosperity, this golden era between the end of World War II and just about when Ronald Reagan took office and I at least was born. We had this period of time where incomes rose in tandem, where there was a much smaller gap between CEO pay and average worker pay, where labor unions were strong, where the trade rules, what of that there were, benefited and were conscious of the livelihoods of the producers of the goods that were being exported. All of that has changed in a way that has created fundamental economic insecurity for most Americans. We now have two parents working and able to create a little less security than one parent was able to create on his own a generation ago. We have people going into the workforce without the kind of security that they had with contingent work and contract work and temporary work. And so I'd actually like to challenge a little bit this idea that what we need to do is, maybe spend a little bit now on some short-term spending, but then we should actually spend less than we even have been now because of our long-term deficit. It seems to me like we are actually going to have to do a lot more to put the American people on sound footing. We're going to have to make college debt-free again. We're going to have to make universal child care because both parents are working. And it seems to me like that's going to take a fair amount of money. And so I'm hearing from the American labor movement, not, let's do this short emergency thing, but let's actually rework the entire package so that we're doing the kind of investments that are needed for the kind of generational, transformational security. And yet, what's been the response from our allies? That's what I'm wondering.
Before I answer that, I would like to comment on your previous question. You said that there is a danger in the upcoming, perhaps lame duck session, or at the beginning of next year, about this grand bargain. And if you notice, more and more and more Democrats have been trying to embrace Simpson-Bowles. I would point out that Simpson-Bowles was never voted on by that committee itself. They could never get a consensus on it. Second of all, Simpson-Bowles has some very, very odious things in it. Tax rates go down to 28%. They cut Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. So one thing that I think we need to do collectively is to give our friends a little bit of backbone and declare, as we have, that we will fight and oppose any cuts in Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, regardless of who proposes it. We will fight against it so that they don't get the notion that the rich had a party and we get to pay yet again for the party that they had that we weren't attending to. Now, getting back to your other question, from 1946 to 1973, productivity in the country doubled, and so did wages. They were tied together. And the interesting thing about that is the people in the bottom two quartiles, their wages were raising faster than the people at the top, and so the wage gap and inequality was actually collapsing. During that period of time, we represented about 35 to 40% of the workforce. So we were driving wages. We were driving